Shema Hope you enjoy this next study. My name's Dee. This is my wife, Millie.
So if you like what you see, subscribe and hit the notification bell. And if you wish to reach out to us, you can email us at devotedtoyah@gmail.com.
Acts 21, I think, is the one I was looking for. Let's go here. 21:21. So it's around here. All right. Paul urged to make peace. I want to start 17. Okay. And when he had come to Jerusalem, the brethren received us gladly. On the following day, Paul went in with us to James, and all the elders were present. When he had greeted them, he told in detail those things which God had done among the Gentiles through his ministry. And when they heard it, they glorified Yahuah. And they said to him, "You see, brother, how many myriads of Jews or Judeans there are who have believed, and they are all zealous for the law. But they have been informed about you, Mr. Paul, that you teach all the Jews who are among the Gentiles to forsake Moses." Wouldn't it be hypocritical to teach that? And some Christians believe this, the dispensation, theologists of Calvinists and Reformed Baptists, they teach that it's okay to teach Jews to keep the law, but not the Gentiles. That's two different laws. That's two different standards. No, but I'm saying there are Christians who believe this. So they say here, based on this verse, because you're going to see what comes after this. It says, but they have been informed about you that you teach all Jews who are among the Gentiles to forsake Moses, saying that they ought not to circumcise their children nor to walk according to the customs. What then? The assembly must certainly meet, for they will hear that you have come. Therefore, do what we tell you. We have 4 men who have taken a vow. Take them and be purified with them, and pay their expenses, so that they may shave their heads, and that all that may know that those things of which they were informed concerning you are nothing. In other words, these are lies. But that you yourself also walk orderly and keep the law. Okay, what I'm trying to say is Christians would say, oh, look, verse 25. But concerning the Gentiles who believe, we have written and decided that they should observe no such thing, except that they should keep themselves from things offered to idols, from blood, from things strangled, and from sexual immorality. Christians use this and they get so excited over this and they say, oh, you see, and certain Messianic groups too, certain Jews for Jesus. There are people called Jews for Jesus. They're Jewish, quote unquote, Jewish people. And they say, oh, we need to keep the law, but you Gentiles, it's not necessary for you. It's really for us. That is so wicked. 2 different laws for 2 different groups of people, 2 different standards. It doesn't make any sense. That's not biblical. That's not what the Messiah taught in Matthew 23. Matthew 23, he told the multitude and his disciples to obey the law of Moses and the prophets. And then in Matthew chapter 28, he gave his disciples the Great Commission to go and make disciples of all nations, all ethnicities, teaching them to observe all that I commanded you Israelites. So that includes Matthew chapter 23. Verse 25 here is in context to Acts chapter 15. Again, that this is a starting point for these Gentiles. They are not required. The standard of keeping the law is not as high for them. They have to keep the circumcision because it is a physical commandment. Going from the loins of Abraham, being a seed of Abraham, Jacob comes from the line of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, right? Jacob and the 12 tribes of Israel. So being circumcised is a physical custom of the Israelites. It's not a physical custom for Gentiles. They're not physical Israelites. So the standard is higher for the Jews. Not that there's a different law for them. It's the same law. The circumcision is still a command. Okay? But that's a little context for verse 25. And a matter of fact, we could probably even do this real quick. Because I believe there's different manuscripts regarding this verse as well. Let me just see real quick just to make sure. How's the King James say it? Verse 25. So, as touching the Gentiles which believe, we have written and concluded that they observe no such thing, save only that. Okay, so it's the same thing. All right, what about the web? Curious. Verse 25. But concerning Gentiles who believe, we have written our decision that they should observe no such thing. So, okay. Basically the same thing that happened in Acts chapter 15. That is what I have for here. It is a false accusation that Paul was preaching against the customs of Moses. He's not changing the customs. In the Old Testament, the custom was that if a Gentile wanted to eat the Passover lamb, he had to be circumcised. There were limitations to activities that you can do in Israel if you were not circumcised. But it doesn't the Old Testament doesn't preach that if you're not that if you're not circumcised, you're not declared righteous or you can't be accepted by Yahuah. There were many Gentiles who lived and sojourned with the Israelites before they were even circumcised. They were allowed to live, be servants and work. And then there were other Gentiles who just came and left. They wanted to just come for a quick job and then leave. But there were some Gentiles who came, they lived, and they were like, yo, I like your culture, I like your faith, I like the religion, I want to stay here. I want to be part of this. Okay? So all this fear that in Galatians 2 that we read about Peter being scared to be seen eating with a Gentile, that stuff was never in the Old Testament. No Israelite was scared to be seen eating with a Gentile. Us Israelites, we're supposed to be reaching out to Gentiles and teaching them of our ways. Okay, my wife is just saying we just weren't supposed to eat with them if they're bringing us idols and food offered to idols and stuff like that, which is what Acts 15 talks about. All right, but anyway, that's all I got for this chapter, the first few verses. And I think is essential to get all that context because it gets butchered by Christians. Oh my gosh, there's Christian commentaries and pastors out there just, oh, you see, Paul was scared. Paul was in fear. And so he didn't need to circumcise him. He only did it out of fear. That's not true. You know, there's another moment where Paul didn't circumcise somebody just to show that it's not about circumcision. It's about faith first. I think that was Titus. It was Titus. Timothy got circumcised. Titus did not. So Paul's preaching both. He's doing both. He's showing that it's important. There's emphasis on it. And again, there's probably more detail in between these stories that we don't have. I wouldn't be surprised, and this is an assumption, but I wouldn't be surprised if Timothy was a little more mature. I don't know. Just out of curiosity, I want to go to that story. I know we're done with our time. Thank you guys for hanging in there. Let's see. Yep. It's in the same chapter. Look at that.
Share your screen.
Galatians 2. Thank you, sir. All right. Defending the gospel. Then after 14 years, Paul went up again to Jerusalem with Barnabas and also took Titus with me. And I went up by revelation and communicated to them that gospel which I preached among the Gentiles. What type of gospel that he preached among the Gentiles? The gospel was, listen, you don't have to be burdened with feeling like you need to keep the entire law in order to be declared righteous. You can be declared righteous by faith. Matter of fact, the Spirit could fall on you right now if you want. You want the gift of the Spirit? You want the gift of that set apart Spirit on you right now? It can happen. Paul was doing it. People were getting healed. Demons were being cast out before people were circumcised, before people knew the entire law. That's the message he was preaching. So he takes Titus with him, and I went up by revelation and communicated with them the gospel which I preached among the Gentiles, but privately to those who were of reputation, leaders, lest by any means I might run or had run in vain. So he's keeping himself accountable. Yet not even Titus, who was with me, being a Greek. Oh, look at that. He was a Greek. That answers a lot. Titus wasn't a Jew. So Titus, who was with me, being a Greek, was compelled to be, so not even Titus was compelled to be circumcised. I do not believe that this means that for the rest of the life of Titus, he never got circumcised and didn't care about it. I just believe for this season of the life that they were traveling and doing all this, he didn't get circumcised during that time. I wouldn't be surprised, guys. Abraham wasn't circumcised for 13 years, and he was declared righteous by Yahuah. The Israelites weren't circumcised for 40 years in the wilderness when they had the law of Moses. I wouldn't be surprised. All right, but this is not preaching that circumcision is of the devil and it's you're falling from grace and all this misinterpretation that happens with certain, when you pick and choose and, you know, pickpocket certain verses in the book of Galatians, especially, you know, because that becomes miscommunicated. What the gospel, what the Galatians, the book of Galatians is talking about is don't use circumcision as a prerequisite for salvation. If you go around telling people that they can't be saved unless they're circumcised, then you are poisoning the gospel message. That's what Paul is preaching. That's the context. So anyway, that's all I have. I hope you enjoyed that. Brother D-Rail, you want to jump in and say anything? All right. Hallelujah.
I think you said it all.
Praise Yah.
Hallelujah.